Hello, this is your friendly neighborhood host, JT Wheatley, back for another episode of the History of Comics podcast, this time with the life of Gardner Fox, DC's greatest writer. Of the many great writers that have worked at DC Comics, perhaps the most important was Gardner Fox. While he didn't create the big three, Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman, he would write significant stories contributing to all of those. In addition, he practically created every other DC character. The short list of his creations are The Flash, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Dr. Fate, Hourman, Barbara Gordon, and Barbara Gordon Batgirl. In addition, he created the first superhero team with the Justice Society of America during the Golden Age of comics, reinvented it into the Justice League of America in the Silver Age, and then managed to find a way to have them both coexist at the same time when he created the DC multiverse. Simply put, Gardner Fox wasn't just one of DC's most important writers, he may just been their most important. Gardner Fox was born on May 20th, 1911, followed by his sister Cecilia Catherine on May 25th, 1916. They are both heavily influenced by their father, Leon, who was wealthy enough as an electrical engineer to afford many books for his children, which they devoured. The Fox family could trace their origins back to Richard Fox, who landed in America in 1635 on the ship the Abigail, and at the age of 15 in what would be known as the upstate of New York. From there, the Fox family would have many notable ancestors as Joel Fox, who fought in the American Revolution at the battles of Lexington and Concord, along with serving under General George Washington in the First Continental Army. Gardner Fox's grandfather, Elmer, served as a surgeon during the Civil War. Such military service would be a point of pride for the family, and Gardner Fox would later be disappointed when he attempted to enlist, only to be disqualified due to his poor eyesight. Fox would later join the Sons of American Revolution, while his own daughter, Linda Fox Cohen, joined the Daughters of the American Revolution. Fox's father, Leon, was born on October 15, 1883, in Somerset, New York, growing up in a Quaker home up near Niagara Falls and later attending Purdue University. He graduated in 1906 with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and later married Julie Veronica Gardner in September 12, 1908, converting to Catholicism to do so. Leon would later be made VP of Engineering at AT&T, helping laying down the Long Island's phone lines. When their first child was born, Leon and Julia named him Gardner after her maiden name. As a father, Leon was used to use classic sayings to raise his children, such as "spare the rod, spoil the child," and "idle hands are the devil's playground," but would spoil them anyway by spending hundreds of dollars on books for Christmas presents, the equivalent of thousands a day. These gifts of books would inspire both his children, as Cecilia Catherine, Kay, would later become a librarian and eventually head of the Keene Public Library for 29 years, while Gardner, of course, would become a writer. As a boy, Gardner Fox loved Edgar Rice Burroughs, Harold Lamb, and Robert E. Howard from pulps like Argosy. For science fiction, Burroughs was Gardner Fox's biggest influence, especially his John Carter from Mars series. But for fantasy, his favorite was Abraham Merritt, the noted fantasy writer who also influenced the likes of H.P. Lovecraft. Fox also enjoyed the classics like Shakespeare, which he would later incorporate into his writing. His boyhood friend, Vincent Sullivan, whom he knew since the second grade, would help him with his writing and later set him up onto his comic book career, as Fox had decided that one day he wanted to be a writer himself, but he would make a few detours before he got there. For his Catholic confirmation, Gardner Fox chose Francis as his confirmation name, after St. Francis of Assisi, a wealthy soldier who gave up his fortune to follow Jesus. It would replace his middle name Cooper, though Fox would later use that pen name in his writing. After graduating high school, Gardner Fox attended the Venetian St. John's Catholic College, where he double majored in history and English, with plans to eventually go to law school. It was during this time that he and his friends were charged for illegally carrying guns, 2 .22 rifles and a 16-gauge shotgun, into Hexura State Park. On November 30th, 1929, they pled guilty and were fined $25, but allowed to keep their guns, which normally they would have been confiscated. The judge let them off easy as Fox and his friend pled ignorance that it was illegal to take guns into the park. It would be a pivotal event of mercy that influenced his belief in justice and later shaped his own storytelling. At St. John's, Fox was extremely active outside of his studies, joining the fencing team along with rifle, basketball, golf, and football. He would focus on fencing, which he continued into the sport throughout his life. On May 7, 1931, Fox was inducted into the Skull and Circle Honor Society, where he was tapped as Skull Number 1, one of the highest honors you can receive at St. John's. All the while, Fox was also working as the editor on the Torch and the Venetian papers, the only person in the history of St. John's to do both, and also served as editor of the St. John's College Alumni News. On June 9th, 1932, Fox graduated St. John's with a Bachelor of Arts and received the Moore Memorial Medal for senior religion, something he greatly prized as Fox took his Catholicism very seriously. Gardner Fox later got his master's in law while joining the Phi Delta Phi fraternity on March 24th, 1934. Throughout his college years, despite his numerous activities, Fox constantly found a way to write and developed a technique of assembling scrapbooks to help with his writing process. These showed his extensive research, covering everything from current events to history and science. These would later be made part of the Gardner Fox Library created by his sister Kay. After attaining his master's in 1935, Gardner Fox served 4 years as a law clerk and legal referee at the King County Supreme Court of Title Guarantee and Trust Company. On August 19, 1936, Fox was admitted to the bar at the age of 24, one of 720 of 1,417 to pass, and was looking to a bright future as a lawyer. It was also during this time that Gardner Fox met Linda Negrini, a high society woman who had just graduated from fencing school. By all accounts, she was a strong and complicated woman and would influence many of Gardner Fox's comic book creations, as many of his male superheroes often had strong female companions. They were introduced at a party at the start of the game of Monopoly, which Gardner and Linda both enjoyed, as they took their gaming seriously. Their grandchildren would later comment that the only game they could ever beat them at was the card game Uno, and only because Gardner was colorblind. Fox also romanced Linda by writing her poetry, often including a card of poems written by him to her with every gift he gave her. On November 14, 1937, they married, with a wedding reception having a notorious incident when Fox's father got drunk and was so scorned by his wife for the incident that it was the last time it ever happened. Linda considered herself a high-class Italian and expected a certain lifestyle, and with Fox, as a lawyer with a rising career, he was expected to provide it. However, things would have changed when his old friend, Vincent Sullivan, came calling, needing help on writing on this new comic book called Detective Comics. Fox was originally confused as the comic book medium had only just launched in America back in 1933 with Funnies on Parade, which was essentially just a collection of newspaper comic strips. It wasn't long before comic book publishers realized it was easier to create original content for the books over licensing strips, thus new writers and artists were in high demand, one of whom was Vincent Sullivan, who started out as a staff writer before becoming editor on such comic books as The New Comics and More Fun, and would later take on Action Comics and Detective Comics. After Vincent Sullivan described comic books to Gardner Fox as original illustrated stories appearing in books over newspaper strips, it was apparently enough to sell him, as on May 10, 1937, Gardner Fox wrote his first comic book story, The Evil Oak, in Detective Comics No. 4, under the pen name Paul Dean, a two-page mystery about a murder in a hollow tree. Fox originally did this for extra money and for fun, continuing to practice law early on. Next, he did the Lavelle case in Detective Comics No. 18 in 1938, starring Steve Malone, a district attorney, basing the story on his own law court experiences, though also a good deal of wish fulfillment, as Malone also got into fights and even shot a gun, not the usual task of a prosecutor. Fox also wrote the Light-Heavy Championship in Action Comics No. 1, though this story would of course be overshadowed by the first appearance of Superman, launching the golden age of comic books. That comic book also featured the debut of another superhero character that would be overshadowed, but had a significant impact on DC and Gardner Fox, Zatara. Zatara was created by Fred Gardner and first appeared in Action Comics No. 1 in June of 1938. Gardner Fox wrote Zatara the Magician and the Haunted Farm, which would be the first superhero story he ever wrote, in Action Comics No. 2. Magicians early on had become a lead contender for everyone's favorite superhero, thanks in large part to Mandrake the Magician, comic strip by Lee Falk, arguably the first superpowered hero to appear in a comic strip or book form, with Zatara and many others copying him. Zatara's most distinguishing feature was his ability to use spells by saying words backwards, something that would be passed on to his daughter, but more on her later. And under Fox, Zatara became more courteous and charming. As for the story, it showed a larger range for Fox, with its supernatural aspects and Zatara using his invisibility abilities to appear and disappear, confounding the police, along with providing a good laugh. By 1939, Gardner Fox had committed to a dual life of lawyer and writer, practicing law by day and writing by night, almost a superhero dual identity. He also struck a personal and professional friendship with the comic artist Bert Christman, who lived at his place rent-free in exchange for a furniture set, something Gardner and his new wife Linda greatly enjoyed. Together they would create the Golden Age Sandman, who made his first appearance in New York World's Fair Comics #1 in April of 1939. Unlike the modern Neil Gaiman mystical character, this Sandman was more in the vein of the pulp action heroes like The Shadow, wearing a trench coat, fedora, and gas mask, while using a gun that emitted sleeping gas to subdue criminals. The character would fall into obscurity after the 1940s, though DC has since revived him, making him a significant part of the comic book line. Sadly, Bert Christman's career in comics would be short-lived as he joined the U.S. Navy in June of 1938 as a pilot cadet, where he used his artistic skills to decorate the nose cones of warplanes. With the outbreak of World War II, he joined the Flying Tigers, the first American volunteer group who defended the mainland China from the Japanese invasion. Christman died a war hero, having been shot down by the Japanese Air Force defending the Burma Road in China on January 23, 1942 at the age of 26. He was buried with full military honors defeating a colonel in the Chinese Air Force. Gardner Fox was also brought on to help with the new Batman character, who made his first appearance in Detective Comics #27 when co-creator Bob Kane hired him to help as his other co-creator, writer Bill Finger, was having trouble keeping up with the deadlines. Fox would personally praise Bill Finger's writing style and later champion his efforts to get Bill Finger credited as Batman's co-creator. During his run helping write Batman in Detective Comics, Fox's stories were noted for adding the gothic atmosphere to the settings, along with adding Batman's gadgets and vigilante attitude. Fox's run also included introducing his secret lair in the Wayne Manor, later to be identified as the Batcave, his utility belt, which included batarangs, along with Batman's first flying vehicle, the Bat Gyro. He would write Detective Comics #29 to 34, which also introduced his first attempt of giving Batman an arch-villain with Dr. Death, and he even battled vampires in issues number 31 and 32, which introduced Bruce Wayne's first love interest with Julie Madison, his then fiancée. A female companion would become a hallmark of many of the heroes Gardner Fox wrote, and also of note, Batman killed the vampires with a gun firing silver bullets. Being an early adventurer, the Dark Knight hadn't quite gotten his aversion to guns or killing, though one could argue that vampires are already dead. Guns would eventually be removed by DC editor Whitney Ellsworth, who proactively censored their comics in lieu of the future media attacks. While Bob Kane and Bill Finger are clearly Batman's creators, one cannot deny the contributions Gardner Fox made, and this is only the beginning of his legendary comic book career. In January of 1940, Gardner Fox created The Flash and Hawkman in Flash Comics #1. The Flash, which Fox created with artist Harry Lambert, was originally based on the Greek god Mercury, with his original look featuring a silver-winged helmet. As for Hawkman, Fox was inspired by watching a hawk carry a twig while in flight. For this character, Fox co-created him with artist Dennis Neville, who would base his story on Egyptian mythology. Along with Hawkman, Fox and Neville also created Ciara Sanders, Hawkman's love interest, and the future Hawk Girl. Setting Fox's standard of female characters, as Sanders often took the lead in many of their adventures. The use of female companions also included the Flash as well, as his girlfriend and future wife, Joan Williams, graduated alongside Jay Garrett from Windmaster University. Fox would also incorporate his scientific knowledge to explain his hero's powers, such as the physics of being able to actually catch a bullet. With his increasing comic book success, Gardner Fox found himself torn more and more from his law career and finally decided to give it up to focus on writing full-time. Sheldon Mayer, the legendary DC editor, joked that Fox was too gentle to be a lawyer anyway. According to rumor, Fox even blurted out in the middle of a trial that his own client was wrong. It would prove to be a wise decision, as while Fox's work on Batman, The Flash, and Hawkman already secured his place in comic book history, he was about to blaze a trail that would cement him as one of the greatest comic book writers of all time. To do this, Fox set a strict writing schedule of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, with a lunch break promptly at 12 p.m. It was so strict he hated to be interrupted while writing, to the point that answering the door infuriated him. Fox continued to use his scrapbooks to help with the writing process, which provided detailed panel descriptions. In addition, unlike other artists, Fox regularly read critiques of his work, looking for ways to improve it while not being insulted, thus further honing his craft. Gardner Fox continued to work with his friend, editor Vincent Sullivan, following him to Columbia Comics Corporation, and the two soon became close friends. He continued to write under pen names such as Paul Dean and Lynn Cooper, where he wrote Big Shot Comics, which featured Skyman and The Face. The first character Fox co-created with Ogden Whitney, and was an amalgam of the